Well,
All right.
how much time, you know, we really need to file this on the 11th because there is, you know, isn't there like with the city?
I need to file it on the 15th.
Oh, you need to file it on, so you
That's
already
fine.
gave yourself a little bit of leeway? She already gave herself a little bit of leeway.
And so you have the 12th, which can be your drop dead date.
So we could do it the 12th?
Well, no, the 12th I'm tied up, and
Oh.
I'm in Phoenix on the 9th and 10th.
How about the 11th?
The 11th, I'm open.
Mr. Dobby?
He said he was
On
open.
the 11th, I'm open.
Mr. Reese? July 11th?
Make it happen.
You gonna make it happen?
So we're gonna cancel the 3rd then, or?
No.
No, the 3rd can be a different study session.
So the 3rd's your regular study session. It's
Mhm.
got items on the agenda already. You can still
Mhm.
talk about this process if you wanted to.
Mhm.
We could put that on the agenda.
I thought it was on the agenda.
Yeah,
That's what we said we were having the meeting for.
Well, that and a couple other items, yes.
There are other items.
Okay, confused, okay, no problem. Got it.
So, and what time would we, the earliest that you could do it in the day, or you want to do it at
1
6
p.m.
o'clock?
1 p.m. is the earliest I can do.
Mr. Dobby, on the 11th, would you,
Open.
would 6 p.m. be, because I think
I
people.
prefer it earlier,
I know, but I think that a lot of people work,
Yeah.
and 6 p.m. might be an appropriate time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
And
think
you
that,
work all the time.
Well, with the exception of the 11th, but you can have the meeting without me.
Really?
Yeah, I have a serious other engagement I've got to be at.
Well,
But you can have the meeting without me. That's not the problem. This is far more important than me being in the room for that.
would our city attorney be with us?
it's
It's
not
a
a choice.
Thursday.
It's a Thursday, but either myself or Jen, we were at every meeting.
Right.
How about we make it 5:30?
5:30?
5:30?
yeah.
And do we have any
I
other,
can make it.
and do we have any other meetings? I know that one time we rescheduled a special meeting and then we ran into some committee meeting and the chairman got a little huffy.
I don't believe there's anything else.
Me?
No,
We do not have a planning commission meeting
no.
that.
Okay, as you know,
You know,
I was
that-
keeping it quiet.
But see, that's later in the month. That's like the 4th Wednesday. It's like the 4th Wednesday.
So
I didn't say
applications,
anything negative about a resident.
applications would be due on Monday, July 8th
Yeah.
by 5 p.m. And then the packets would be delivered to the council. You get those in advance. And on July 11th, you're talking about doing the interviews and, if you wanted any interviews, selecting a candidate if you choose to select one, and if not, calling the special election all in that same evening.
And we
Yes.
can do it in a wrap.
Yes, yes. The 11th, right.
You mean do it?
The 11th.
Yeah.
We'll do it all
Right,
at the
do
same
it all at
time.
the same time.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Do
work.
it in one meeting.
Do it in one meeting.
Make sure it's agendized, just in case.
In a certain period of time before they go out
Hmm.
and pay the money.
Okay. Is that enough direction?
That's enough direction. We can move that forward.
Okay, all right. We're done with that then.
It's 5:30 p.m., right?
5:30, okay. So, we are going to move on to item number 23, which is adopting the resolution designating a voting delegate and up to 2 alternates to the League of California Cities Annual Conference. This year is being held in Sacramento, California. It's September 18th through 20th. I, as the mayor, am planning to attend, so I would like to be the voting delegate. It's my preference that the vice mayor be a voting delegate and go with us as well, but we can't, then are there other members of the council who would like to also attend, or who are planning on attending, would like to attend on September 18th through the 20th?
Well, I went last year, so if Mr. Dobby would like to go, then I would be more than happy to have him go. But if he's not gonna go, I thought it was a worthwhile conference, and I had been considering going.
Okay?
I would be happy to not go.
I figured that.
You've got big plans that weekend, don't you? It's midweek, yeah, there you go. So,
Happy to have somebody else go.
Vice Mayor Reese, are you
I would
available?
accept to go if you'd like.
You can't participate.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
Would you like to participate?
He can participate in voting.
You can, okay. So, so I'd like to, yes, do we have any public comments on the voting delegates for the League of Cities, California Cities Conference? Okay, seeing none, any comments from the council members?
I make a motion that the mayor be the lead delegate to the conference and the vice mayor be the alternate, and Mr. Councilman Whitmer be the second alternate.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we passed that. Next item is item number
That
20.
means you have to stay to the voting this time.
I knew you were staying.
Okay.
I wasn't a delegate.
Second alternate can't leave.
Yeah. He was the delegate.
So I'm last, so you guys gotta make sure you got your plans.
You know what, I think, you know, you might want to just stay there.
No, I don't think so.
But it's fun.
I do, yeah, it was fun. It was, I enjoyed doing the voting. So
That's great.
last minute appeals and stuff. But,
Oh, yeah.
That was it. But I think you guys should enjoy it this time.
Item number 24. Well, I hope we can all get together, you know, Sacramento's a really fun place.
It's a hot town.
So, here we are. Item number 24, it is the approval of the ranking of our Civic Center Master Plan consultants and authorization to negotiate an agreement. Mike, you are listed here as the lead reporter on this. Would you like to make the presentation?
Sure, just very briefly.
Thank you.
Mayor and Lewis, members of the council, back on March 20th, the city council approved the request for proposal for consultants to prepare a civic center master plan. Through that process, the town of Atherton received 5 proposals. The 5 proposals were reviewed by a subcommittee of the Civic Center Advisory Committee. And as a result of that, 4 firms were shortlisted for an interview. After the conclusion of the interview, the top-ranked firm is HMC. And at this point, staff is recommending that the city council approve HMC as a top-ranked firm and authorize staff to negotiate a contract. And if approved this evening, staff will immediately begin that negotiation and bring back a contract for the July meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. It's a little choking, the bid that was unsealed after all the voting was done by staff, and the HMC proposal fee was $289,800. I understand that you've had some conversation with them since then about reducing their fee?
Yes, we have. And we indicated to them that the town was thinking more like in the $130,000 range. And so they are aware of that. And so as part of the negotiation, we will reduce the scope
Okay.
and bring back that scope to council.
Okay. Let me open it up to public comments because I know we have a member of the CCAC committee here, and would you like to tell us a little bit about the process from your viewpoint?
Sure. So we did a very thorough assessment of these 5 firms. The entire committee, 9 members of the committee, including 7 community voting members, interviewed all of the firms, and this firm received, and we ordered them in terms of 1, 2, 4, because there were really 4 that came in and did the interviews. Every single person on the committee voted for this firm to be number 1. We didn't know what their bid was, so we didn't know what the dollar value was and what the cost would be. We didn't compare the firms based on cost. We compared the firms based on our assessment of their quality and their ability to understand what we were seeking in the Civic Center plan. They're not being hired as architects, they're being hired as planners. I mean, my personal opinion is that that dollar amount is a lot higher than any of us, I think, expected, so I would encourage staff to negotiate it as you suggested. But we were all very impressed with this firm, and we feel strongly that the council should support staff to go forward and negotiate a contract with them.
Okay, thank you. Bring it back to council for any questions or comments. Jerry?
Mike, do you feel that, that we're gonna get an acceptable result, or, you know, if we get down to 130 to 150,000? I mean, knowing that they were very good and they presented themselves very well, what happens when we chop them all the way down? What are we losing?
The way that we would approach it is that we would kind of develop a core, a core scope of work that, we believe is gonna get, provide the council with the information for you to make a decision as far as, what you want your future civic center to look like. But in addition to that, we will also kind of identify some additive things that, if the council wanted, for instance, to have a few more alternatives, or wanted to consider, something in addition, or wanted to include some additional community participation and outreach, then, we would have that. So then, the council can then decide, what is the appropriate scope, and the fee will be based on that.
Thank you, Mike.
Councilor Dottie, do you have any
Yeah, I,
comments?
of course, was a member of this committee, and we selected them. The one thing I would say is, in the contract, we've got to be very specific about what they are bidding on. We've got to make sure that we know exactly what they're gonna do, so that they can't come back later and say, well, this was not in the contract, that we'll have to charge you more. And I haven't seen the competitive bids, but I assume you have, and that you are trying to make sure that their bid is competitive.
Okay. Councilman
So on the scope change, on the QBS system, as I understand it, I guess this was a QBS procurement, right? So we select one, we open their bid, and we say, that wasn't our number. I'm kind of confused that the way I read it, and Bill, you'd have to comment, is that you really can't change much of the scope, because then it's a new proposal, somebody's turning in a bid on something that was a different scope. So are you putting some refinement on the scope? How is this, or is it just gonna be their input, say we'll do this or do that? Can you be more specific? Because if there's not gonna be there, then of course we have to go with the second bid, and I'd like to understand, when you ranked them, was there somebody else that was, I realize all four of you
Yes.
picked this one, but somebody else was kinda close, or was like
Mhm.
four, so,
Mhm.
because they may be who we end up with, so can we comment on the change in the
Sure.
proposal?
Well, first of all, this is not a bid. So this is not, and also, in the art request for proposal, we weren't really super specific as far as everything we wanted them to do and how we wanted them to do it. But as part of the proposal process, we asked all the firms to present a detailed scope of work. And that, again, in the qualifications-based system, is really one of the best ways of determining who really has an understanding of the work that you're asking for. Who, and it's also, in many ways, in many times, separates people who say they can do this and can put together nice proposals, as opposed to people who really have done the work. And so, in my experience and my belief is that it's very appropriate to redefine and renegotiate the specific scope of work, because we did not, unlike a construction project, where we're very specific as far as what we want, that is not how proposals are done.
So-
And to be clear, the RFP was intentionally vague. Because it was a planning document. It's kind of like an artist painting a picture. You can tell them you want to paint a picture, it's got to go on that wall right there, and it's got to reflect something historical of value. But you can't tell what it's going to be like until they come out and say, well, I want to paint a picture of a covered wagon. And you say, well, I'm not so hot about a covered wagon if you can make it a horse. A Maserati would definitely be something we'd want on the wall. And so it was intentionally vague because it was a broad plan. Nobody
So
wanted.
they'll still meet the intent of the proposal?
Yes.
Okay, but they may change the methodology that they use, or some of the bells and whistles.
They may not go as far
Alright,
as they
okay.
had initially
Alright.
thought they would.
Okay, well, of course, that information wasn't clear here. Then the comment, if you, one of you could get back with me on the second place finisher, in case we have to go there, it might be more appropriate for yourself.
It's BMS.
But how close?
Now?
Yes, sure, yes.
Okay, a couple things. So it's interesting. There were 7 voters. Everyone voted this firm number 1. The gap between number 1 and number 2 was significant, and the proximity of number 2 and 3 was very close.
Like,
We had to go through, I think, 3 votes to figure out who would be number 2. So number 2 and 3 were like this, and 1 was up here. 2 things that I would say. This firm, a couple firms recognized that to do a project for the town of Atherton was going to be a showcase project for them, and that was their language. So there's a premium for this firm to do this work for us, and we should reflect that in the way that we monetize it. The second thing is the outreach in this project is really critical, and it would be a big mistake to structure the scope to downsize the outreach. We were very clear in all of our discussions with them and amongst ourselves that the outreach needed to be not just a general broadcast to the town of Atherton, but that we needed to go out to each community group, like the Lindenwood group and the West Side group, and we need to have house meetings in each of those community groups so that we can do an effective outreach to communicate what the concept is that we want to put into the town center, which is, this is going to be a big deal for this town. And it can have an effect for our town for the next 50 years, and we need to recognize that. I really think we have the opportunity to get people behind this. And of course, there's a subsequent fundraising effort that we're going to have to do. So the outreach is critical, and I would really not want that downsized in the scoping.
right.
All right, thanks a lot. Thanks for your service as well.
So, just to be clear, Councilmember Dawdy and I are the council representatives to this committee. We did not vote on the selection process. So, the residents voted, we observed, and we watched. There was clear, it was clear from all the 4 interviews that this firm had the best chemistry, the best energy, the highest, energy and enthusiasm, and really connected with the committee members in a way that the other ones really didn't. That's, so, he did not.
Well, I know, but I said, who would you
We're
have
gonna
voted
vote
for?
right now, this one.
I didn't vote for them, but you know what?
I just like to know your opinion.
I think,
I voted for them,
to
but I
me,
didn't vote
to
for
me,
them.
the real key in this thing is the contract. We've got to be crystal clear that everything that we want is in that contract. And my own feeling is this company definitely wants the business. And frankly, I wouldn't worry about number 2 at the moment. I would go like hell to get an agreement with this company at the best possible price, making sure that we had an absolutely bulletproof contract to get this job done and get it done right. Because
Get it moving.
based on the other 7 members, all 7 members thought this company was way ahead of any of the others. It wasn't.
Not a little bit.
Yeah.
Wait, did you want to make any comments?
No,
Okay, all right. So bringing it back to council, I'd like to call for a motion to approve the ranking of the consultants, the master plan consultants, and authorize staff to continue negotiating the agreement with HMC, and to do it post-haste.
I'll second that.
Okay?
Do we want to add the language to also have some alternatives, just in case there are some ads, because we're going to crunch down, like Mike suggested?
That's gonna come to you whether you ask or not.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
in the
So, a motion and a second,
I'll second it.
okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. So, City Manager, you'll let HMC know
We will.
and get Mike and Gordon geared up to negotiate our contract. Get going. Thank you.
Good first step.
Good first step, okay.
Thank you.
This is a first step for a long journey. We're gonna get there yet, I just know we are. Okay, so item number 25 is the adoption of a second amendment to the South Bayside Management Authority, SBWMA, Joint Powers Authority Agreement to change the composition of the Board of Directors. I noticed that since we got our packet, there was a grand jury report that came out. Are we going to take any of their findings in consideration at this meeting or not?
The grand jury report has to be responded to within a certain period of time, so it will be on an upcoming council agenda to do so. You've all got a copy of that public grand jury document already, and it notes essentially that if it is the SBWMA's, the member agencies' desire to change the board to an elected official board, that they also consider adding a TAC to that board, a technical advisory committee, and that's essentially what these changes are doing. So the action that's being recommended by the Blue Ribbon Task Force is pretty consistent with what the grand jury's recommendation is in the eventuality that you do change the makeup of the governance board. So what's before you this evening is a recommendation from that Blue Ribbon Task Force that's, since 1999, it's been a board of directors made up of staff. The Blue Ribbon Task Force is recommending a change in that governance structure after having met several times to change it to an elected official governing board in adopting this second amendment this evening. And that it's strongly recommended that one of the first actions of that board is to form a TAC right out of the box, so you have some expertise that continues along the lines as well. So staff's recommendation is that you consider this second amendment and if appropriate, adopt it to change the governance to an elected official from each member agency.
Any comments from council members? I know Councilmember Carlson's been very active on the subcommittee, and you went to the committee meeting just.
There were two committee meetings. Unfortunately, I wasn't notified of the first one, so, but I did make the second one, and there was, I think there were a couple agencies that were not represented there, but there was a agreement that resulted in the city manager of Redwood City putting together the proposal that we have before you tonight.
Okay. I know you've been recommending this action for a long time.
I think it's years overdue.
It is years overdue. Any other members of council have a comment?
No, this is something that we put forward, and we sent a letter to all the agencies twice, and I'm glad that they're finally acting on it, because it's really been, in my mind, very totally inappropriate. The elected officials are held accountable for this contract, yet they had no input, and there was a stone wall put up in front of any elected official involvement by Kevin McCarthy. And so it's long overdue, and I hope that we can better manage the contract moving forward.
Councilmember Dottie?
No, I'm completely agreeing. We've been talking about this for a long time, and I mean, the fact that we were not allowed to send the most qualified person to be in that board didn't make any sense whatsoever. So I'm totally for it. In fact, I'll make a motion that we
Do we need to do that?
we
Open it
adopt
up?
this.
Thank you. I think we have to have public
Public
comment
input.
first.
Okay.
Any members of the public like to speak on this? Okay, thank you. I'll bring it back and call for a motion.
I will make a motion that we adopt the second amendment to item number 25.
Second.
And Councilmember Carlson seconds the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. That's the end of our regular agenda. I want to,
We have item 10, by the way.
oh, goodness. Councilmember Dobby,
Yes.
item number 10,
Yes.
you are up.
Well, the reason I opened up item number 10 was that, this is a very large contract. $474,088. It seems to me that this is something that we should be bidding on a competitive basis, not just continuously adopt a one-year extension. So my own feeling is that, you know, MCE has been a reasonable job. I've had both positives and negatives on it, but they've done a reasonable job. But, you know, for this kind of money, it should be competitively bid.
Does any other member of the council want to speak on this?
Sure, you'd be disappointed if I didn't comment on this, I think. I appreciate Mr. W. pulling it from the consent calendar instead of myself. I think a couple things that, and I did have a very nice conversation with Steve Tyler. He called me and initiated the conversation about this, so I appreciate him reaching out. I agree with the fact that MCE has done a great job. And last year, of course, you know, they came back and they reduced the prices by 1% or 2%, and then they also threw in a public service donation that was 1% or 2% of additional donated labor, like hanging Christmas lights or planting trees or something like that, as an additional incentive in addition to providing some service levels. And so when I was looking over this contract, I saw that it looked like they were putting their prices back up, and they can't, of course, go up any higher than the numbers that are listed here in the contract because it's an extension. But it looked to me like they were taking that back, and there was no mention of the 1% on the value of what we end up doing with them. I realize that there's a concern with you know, if they don't spend all the money, they don't want to give us money, you know, percent back on what they don't actually receive. But I think that's important that we at least have that conversation with them, and it was put into the contract last year. So that's comment number 1. Number 2 is that we've been doing this for a year or 2 years. This will be the 3rd year, and I agree with Councilmember Dobby. It's time to compete this. We make comments in this staff report that the service is good, and I realize there are a few minor service agreements, but we don't have that many in here. We just put in a few last year in September, item number 17. In the September 19th meeting. But I think we need some more. And I would recommend that staff consider that. And there is also a comment in here that says we think that the prices are fair and competitive. But my conversation with Steve was, well, that was more of a gut feel. It wasn't necessarily a benchmark. And I think we owe it to the residents to continue to benchmark it. The best benchmark is to competitively tender. If you're going to competitively tender, I would like to have staff consider at least two different options. First off, you do recommend, perhaps consider an RFI, and find out whether or not people would be comfortable in bidding both this fixed task that we do, where there's a labor rate that's associated with so many hours per doing a certain job, like we have here today, or a fixed price. Now, we can bid a fixed price because we'll have, if we start mid-year next year, doing this over a 6-month period of time, we should be able to identify what the service levels and the service quantity and volumes have been. And you put that out for the vendors to consider, and they would decide how they might fix price this. Steve's concern is a valid one. Well, they might make some money off of us. Well, we want them to make some money. That way they continue to do a great job. If we're running them into bankruptcy, we wouldn't, you know, they wouldn't be doing a good job, because as they weren't making money, they'd stop doing, they'd cut back on the services or do a shoddy job with the services. So I think, you know, it might be time, and we have enough data to consider doing a fixed price contract for the next extension. But I can't see just going on and on. I think that we need to compete all of our major contracts, the building department contract, as well as the MCE contract and our planning department contract. We need to compete these major contracts that we have, you know, every couple of years, if not every 3 years. 3 years is at the far end. So I have no issue with the extension. I'm concerned that the labor rates are going up, which I think we should look back into that. I'm concerned about, again, as a recap, that they've pulled back on the 1% or whatever 2% that they gave us last year, and then the extra percentage of donation that they gave us. And I would like staff really to come back with a plan. You know, I think it would be worthwhile to come back with a plan on how they're gonna manage these major outsourcing contracts. They're a big chunk of money, and we really need, the best benchmark for competitive pricing is to recompete them. Not every year, but every couple of years. And this one is due, as is the building department, and definitely the planning department is way overdue. That's my comment. I will not withhold my approval on it, but I do think that there were some things that hopefully staff will take note of. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike,
Carol?
if I could.
Public Works, public
I'm
comment?
Dean McDonald, project
Yes,
manager with
sure.
MCE.
Sure.
I want to assure the councilman that the 1/2 of 1% of the total cost of the contract is in effect. So you don't need to worry about that, and our rates are the same that they have been since we started.
No, last year you offered in your contract, I've got it right here. You had the 1%, and you said that you would decrease your labor rates. This came from your proposal. MCE can decrease the labor rates for non-trade prevailing wages by 1% effective September 1st, 2012 for the balance of this fiscal year.
That is
Fiscal year.
correct.
So
That is
are
correct
you,
on
all
that.
right, so you're pulling that back, or are you going to continue it?
No, that's a plumbing rate for prevailing wages that we were losing money on, and we negotiated that through with city staff. The other rates, the labor rates for the people that we have here day in, day out have stayed the same.
Okay, I would think the plumbing rates would be trade prevailing rates. These were non-trade prevailing rates.
Well, maybe I'm confused.
Okay.
All I know is that the rates that we have been charging since we walked into Atherton, the labor we use day in and day out have not changed.
Okay,
I can come back and work with staff to get you the answer that you.
Yeah, if you look at your offer, and what we had in the staff report on September 19th, item number 17, that was in there. It said that the rates would be decreased. And then there was also the offer of the volunteer gift, the 1%, it said 1% community volunteer gift.
On the decreases, are we talking about the current agreement that we have?
Yeah, it was a
That was for
decrease to the
that was
rates.
for
It was,
materials and.
well, you said, no, materials aren't included in here, but I recommend that, you know, so we don't solve it here. I mean, I'm more than happy to show you,
No,
because I
that's
got it
fine.
here on my computer.
I just wanted to have a little bit of input there as far as what I can offer at this point.
Yeah, okay, no, first off, and please don't take it that,
I don't.
you guys have done a good job, you're doing a good job, and I think we've been fortunate that have you here, and we've been fortunate that also for both of us, that the weather has been good and things like that. Mike, I have a concern. One concern is you know, in addition to making sure everything falls through, and I expressed this to Steve as well. The other day, we had a tree fall down, and then you called in the guys, and they came in, you know, lickety-split in the middle of the night and worked all day and all night, you know, all day getting the thing cleaned up, and you did great. But then their 8 hours or so shift was out, and then there was a period of time that if we'd had a second issue, we didn't have anybody. And so a contingent coverage would be something that might be worthwhile for us to explore as a staff, so that we don't have that problem. We feel covered, and, you know, you feel like you're covering the services. I think that that's another thing that would be added in here.
Certainly, like, as you say, I could explain how we could do that right now, but we don't need to
I
get into
think
all
that's
that.
Yeah.
something that staff would handle.
Yeah, but
Manage.
hopefully staff
That's
will
a
come back and give
management
us.
issue, not a
Okay,
budget issue.
but it would be nice if staff would come back and
So,
let us know, but I
thank you.
appreciate it, thank you.
Thank you, we appreciate the opportunity to be here as well,
Okay.
just to let you know that we enjoy working over here with staff, so thank you.
Great,
Thanks.
great.
And, Madam Mayor, just
Yes.
a note, this is under the term of the agreement, of the original agreement, this is the second one-year extension of a potential three-year contract.
Right.
And after this, Steve Tyler and I talked today as well, after having talked to Councilmember Whitman, we will be looking at
A rebate.
And,
rebid.
and it,
But
and
you
it
have to start
actually did
early.
not, it actually did not start until kind of mid-2011,
Yeah,
2011,
September.
September, right.
But the first year ended in June, so it was a, my point was, to recompete is gonna take time, so you need to
Looking
make a
at
plan
next,
and do it earlier.
next year. Okay. Thank you for your comments. Seeing any other public comments, seeing none, we'll bring this back to council. Councilmember Dobby, you want to make a motion to approve this?
I still think I want to withhold my vote on this. I think, on all of these contracts, we've got to start competitive bidding. It's very simple.
Okay. So can I call for a motion to approve this? Okay, a second? I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any opposed? Did you say aye?
Yeah, I did.
Oh.
Jim said aye too, he even did it.
Really?
Authorized.
Oh, so that's a unanimous vote?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. All right.
Thank you.
If there's no more business, I'd like to adjourn this meeting.
Public
Yes.
comment.
Oh, public comment?
On the agenda, it says it.
Oh, at the
All
very
right.
end, you're right,
Number 28.
you know?
You are a stickler for this.
I know you guys want to go home, and I apologize for bringing this up at this late hour, but there's a counter going on at the county level that I think you need to get involved with, or at least be aware of. The redrawing of the lines of the 5 supervisors at the county level. Because in the future, you're gonna have your own supervisor.
No, not
Yeah,
just,
well,
not just about.
you will only have one. That's all, what I'm saying is that they're gonna be elected by district. There's 20 cities in the county, and there'll probably be 4 or 5 cities in each district. So right now, Menlo and Atherton are in different districts. And I think, actually, Atherton, I think, is in 2 districts, but I'm not absolutely sure of that, but I think it is. And I'm just saying, it's probably not, but Menlo is certainly in 4 and we're in 3. And our biggest majority of our district is out in the Half Moon Bay area. So if we have an issue that's really a life issue, I don't think Half Moon Bay would give a,